Shakti. The dealings of love between Radha and Krishna are displayed as the pleasure potency of the Lord. The Lord is the original source of all pleasure, and the reservoir of all pleasure. Lord Ramachandra therefore manifested the truth both spiritually and materially. Materially, those who are attached to women suffer, but spiritually, when there are feelings of separation between the Lord and His pleasure potency, the spiritual bliss of the Lord increases. This is further explained in Bhagavad Gita. Avajanandi mamudha manushim tanumashritam varadbhavam ajananto mamabhuta maheshwaram. One who does not show the spiritual potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead thinks of the Lord as an ordinary human being. The Lord's mind, intelligence, and senses can never be affected by material conditions. This fact is further explained in the Skanda Purana as quoted by Madhvacharya. Nitya Purna Sukha Jnana Swarupa Asau Yato Vibhu Ato Asya Rama Iti Akhya Tasya Dukkham Kutom Vapi Tadapi Loka Sikshartam Adhuko Dukkhavattivat Antarhitam Lokadrishtya Sitam Asit Smarantiha Ya Jnapanartham Punarinitya Sambandha Swatmana Shriya Ayodhyaya Vinivacham Sarvakasya Cheshwarah Pratyaksham tu Shriya Sardham Jagamanadi Abhyayah Nakshatramasa Ganitam Trayodasha Sahasrakam Brahmaloka Samam Chakre Samastam Kshiti Mandalam Ramo Ramo Ramayiti Sarivesham Abhavat Tada Sarvaramo Sarvo Rama Mayo Loko Yada Ramas Apalayat. It was actually impossible for Ravana to take away Sita. The form of Sita taken by Ravana was an illusion representation of Mother Sita, Maya Sita. When Sita was tested in the fire, this Maya Sita was burned and the real Sita came out of the fire. A further understanding to be derived from this example is that a woman, however powerful she may be in the material world, must be given protection. But as soon as she is unprotected, she will be exploited by Rakshasas like Ravana. Here the words Vaideha, Raj, and Vikitari indicate that before Mother Sita was married to Lord Ramachandra, she was protected by her father Vaideha Raja. And when she was married, she was protected by her husband. Therefore, the conclusion is that a woman should always be protected. According to the Vedic rule, there is no scope for a woman to be independent, asamaksham. A woman cannot protect herself independently. That's Hare Krishna. This is just to set it rolling, reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Can you hear me well?
No,
Very
Maharaj.
low, Maharaj.
No, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. How is the voice now? Is it better?
A little
Yes,
bit,
Maharaj.
Maharaj,
A little different.
but not very audible.
Oh, really? No. How is that? Okay, how is it now?
Yes, Maharaj, it's now better.
This is better?
Yes,
Better,
Maharaj.
better, Maharaj.
Okay. It's really bad, you please tell me. I don't know what is wrong because everything has been checked. I'm fine. Can you hear me well?
Hare
Yes,
Krishna,
Maharaj.
Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj, it's the voice is coming as though you're talking from a like enclosed room. That is the effect it's having. It's not very clear, straight voice.
Like it was before, maybe? It was better before?
Not really, Maharaj.
I don't know. Is it so bad you can't hear me at all? Now I heard that it's better now. Say
Now-
Maharaj, it's better than before. Earlier, It was very low, Maharaj.
It's still low?
No, now it's somewhat better.
Little echo is coming, Maharaj. That's a problem, I think.
1 second, I think she put up the. Okay, Ji, now can you hear me? I think
Yes,
it's-
Maharaj, but
Maharaj.
it breaks.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes.
I should put off the cooler. I was having a fun time with the cooler on. Okay, fine. So, in our little foray into the Ramayana, yesterday we discussed the character of Bharata and how he had a titleless great service to be done and how he did with great pleasure. And we discussed many other aspects of Bharata's great character and events that led to that amazing situation. Today we are being indicated in this verse about how Lord Ramachandra suffered separation from Sita. And Prabhupada gives a very brilliant commentary. You see, when we read Ramayana from our frame of reference, from where we are in this world, and based on our activities in this world, we immediately relate with Ramayana from our platform. And that is why the Lord has come into the human platform and is performing this pastime because it becomes very relatable and become relevant to you. But you must also understand not to bring down the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His Leela to a mundane material level. Because you must also understand the Lord's pastimes are all performed in His Antaranga Shakti, in His internal energy, which is completely spiritual. But it's just from our material platform, it has become very accessible to us because it seems like a story we can understand and relate with. Okay? But the idea is that you will be able to relate in this way and get purified and understand the glory of the Supreme Lord and His position beyond anything material. Parastasmat bhavo anyo vyakto avyaktat sanatanaha. There is a different bhava, another nature, apart from this material nature. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita. And that is his spiritual nature. And Krishna has come as Lord Ramachandra, Krishna has come as Vamana, Jai Jagadisha, Hare, Keshava Dhrita, Vamana Rupa, Keshava Dhrita, Rama Sharira, Jai Jagadisha, Hare, O Keshava, in order to woo you, in order to attract you into the transcendental plane, right? So it's mentioned here, certain things are mentioned here. You can look at it materially, you can look at it spiritually. Madhvacharya explains that there are 18 levels of understanding the Mahabharata according to where you are looking at it from. Obviously, the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the topmost look, everything in terms of rasa, in terms of mellows, of enjoyment of relationships. So if you look at it in that way, like Prabhupada is commenting it brilliantly, Lord Ramachandra is not an ordinary human being suffering, oh, my wife is gone, should I marry? Not like that. He and Sita are both enjoying Vipralamba Bhava, a greater experience of deep spiritual devotional sentiment by being separated from each other temporarily, because they are never separate. They are never separate. The Lord and His pleasure-giving potency or Hladini Shakti are never separated. So Lakshmi is an expansion of that pleasure-giving potency. And so also I told you Ramachandra is actually the original Chaturvyuha of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when they come into the material plane, while they are also enjoying the spiritual devotional rasa, externally we are also trying to relate with the Lord. And His pastimes become very wonderful as a human, as a person who's a king, who's a son, who's a prince, who's a citizen of a country, who is husband, in many different roles, he does a perfect job. But here the Bhagavatam says, by this pastime, Ramachandra were to show the whole world, if you remain attached to anything in this material world, out of which for a soul, a partner from the opposite gender becomes extremely important and vital and the moving central force in the material operations and activities. Then if you remain very attached in this way, it will be very difficult for you to relieve yourself. And the condition of such a person who becomes stuck up with material attachment is something that Ramachandra is showing in the forest lost. So the character here we need to also look into is Sita, Mother Sita, who is Lakshmi, goddess of fortune, and who has appeared in this particular Leela to join with Lord Ramachandra in an amazing, wonderful story, wherein she becomes the central focus. She becomes the most important element in the Ramayana. Why? Because Ravana is looking at Sita just like, I said, if you look at it two ways, materially and spiritually. So if you look at the Lord's property, consort, and his part and parcel, his energy, for your exploitation, you have a Ravana mentality. Just hear this very carefully. If you're looking at the Lord's energy, his possession, as something meant for your enjoyment, then you're being a Ravana. You may be clad in coat, suit, boot, and be dressed very well. But what's your intention is, I want to exploit material nature. I don't care whom it belongs to. I don't care whom it belongs to. There is somebody called God, they say it belongs to. As far as I know, I see it. It's exploitable. It's enjoyable. I can make money out of it. I can enjoy my senses. I can have gratification with it. And that's the immediate gratification is what I look at. Then you have a Ravana mentality. And you'll be surprised to know that many of us in the material world do have the Ravana mentality. In small ways or big ways. Ravana had a great horoscope. And he was able to do the Ravana mentality in a very huge way. But the same mentality, according to your karma, if you don't have much of a great karma, will still be there. And you'll exercise it in a smaller way, according to the bad karma you have. Interesting, isn't it? Yes. Exploitation of the Lord and his resources, especially if you like to exploit the Lord's wealth, which becomes the wealth of this world. Then Prabhupada once said, we are not just collecting money. Like now, sometimes we're discussing fundraising because we're building a big temple here. Big temple here in Coimbatore, and we're sometimes discussing fundraising. And we are telling all of our devotees that we are not asking for money. We are asking that you allow Lakshmi from your coffer to come to Narayana and serve Narayana. So that entire Prabhupada sometimes said, we are only bringing Sita from the hands of Ravana to serve Narayana. He said, he made this comment. So Sita signifies many different aspects, and many acharyas have commented many different ways. So you will see in Ramayana, there's a description of how Sita, very beautiful, obviously because she's Lakshmi and she's the consort of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sita is born from Bhumi when the great Mithila Raja Janaka Maharaj is actually plowing with a golden plow, and there's a big story behind it. With a golden plow, and then Sita appears within the earth, and she's extremely beautiful, small baby. And he adopts her, and in this way, she becomes the daughter of Janaka Maharaja. And she grows in that wonderful palace. She sports around in that palace, and she's very sprightly, very energetic, extremely beautiful, and the cynosure, the central piece of everybody's eyes. She grows up so wonderfully in that palace. But Janaka Maharaja has got an amazing collection in his whole palace. If you're talking about things that you collect and possess of value and you have your own museum. Sometime back, many years back, I went to see the Vatican, Italy, Rome. And there's a huge amount of all the souvenirs and all the great presents that the Pope has got from time on, so many different popes, all that are exhibited, amazing things, fantastic things, single piece of things available, no duplicates of this. All these were exhibited. I was wondering, one person gets all these amazing gifts. So great people already would get great gifts from different rulers and countries and everything. So Janaka Maharaja had this amazing gift coming down in the line in Parampara. He had Lord Shiva's bow, Pinaka, right? Shivadhanus. He had that bow with him and it is extremely huge. And it's like to just wheel it on wheels, you need 300, 400 people to push it. It was so heavy, so difficult to move it. And it was on a big exhibit on a huge table. And it's preserved. And it's mentioned that one day when Sita was playing around in her palace, Janaka Maharaj was seeing in the compound, in the garden and everything, she's playing around with her friends. He watched through the window, my dear daughter, so beautiful, so wonderful. And he watched her playing. And he watched that at one point of time that they were playing with some ball and something happened and it got stuck somewhere. And then Sita very casually used this huge bow and lifted it and used it to dislodge the thing and put it back. And he was amazed. What is she doing? She's so small, but she had the capacity and the energy to lift that bow and use it for a very small purpose and put it back. And he was very stunned. And he said, definitely this is a purpose why it's being shown to me. Because I know Sita is not an ordinary woman, an ordinary girl. And this has been told to me, the great sages and everybody. But I did not know she was so extraordinary. I have never seen anybody so casually lift that bow. And he came to know that therefore, the person who will marry my daughter Sita at least has to be equal to her in strength. He should be able to lift that bow. He decided that I cannot call any king and Tom, Dick, and Harry and ask him to marry my daughter. She definitely has indicated by this activity that I have to get that person who can at least lift the bow, at least equal to my daughter in physical strength. That he determined in his mind. So Sita playing around in her whole palace did this very casually. And of course, we know that how Sita in the Swayamvara and Vishwamitra brought Lakshmana and Lord Ramachandra to the palace. He specifically brought them to the Swayamvara of Janaka Maharaj. Janaka Maharaj was so amazed and happy to have Dashrath's sons there. But Vishwamitra had a purpose. And then he said they want to see the bow because they are Kshatriyas and they just want to get excited, and they were shown the bow. And very casually he lifted it and strung the bow and even broke it. He just broke it. And there was such a huge furrow, such a loud, scream from everybody. Broke and made such a loud sound that people screamed out. And they came to know that, oh my gosh, This is the person who is really fit for Sita. And Sita became immensely pleased. It's a beautiful description of this happening very nicely in Lord Ramachandra's, in the Ramayana, wherein we are seeing how Sita and Ramachandra are made for each other, they know, and they get married in a wonderful way. So also do all the other brothers of Lord Ramachandra. I'm not delving into that too much. But then after Sita has become Lord Ramachandra's wife, and it is mentioned that is Maryada Purushottam, and having taken an Ekapatni Vrata, he is an amazing person, beautiful looking, very brave and very talented and highly dharmic, and name it, every quality he has got. And Sita is beautiful and talented and everything else. Both of them wonderful. And they return to Ayodhya and they live in the palace wonderfully. But one other thing has happened in the Ramayana that people often talk about in terms of how can we understand this. The Bhagavatam says due to separation from Sita, how a man suffers. There is also shows in the Ramayana that after Sita has been brought back from Ravana's captivity, and after they have come to Ayodhya and the coronation happens. Is my voice okay again? Again, it went down.
It's breaking, Maharaj, and also the voice is very low.
Okay. Just now I thought you told me it's okay.
Yes, it was better for some time, Maharaj. Then it was breaking, and now it's very low, Maharaj.
It's because of the internet, maybe.
It's clear for me, Maharaj.
For you, it's clear?
Yes, Maharaj.
Oh, for some it is clear. I don't know what to do. Okay. I'll try to move ahead. Can you hear me now better?
Yes, Maharaj.
Is it a little better now? I've adjusted adjusted the internet, put it on a different. Is it better now? Okay, thank you. Right. So we hear from this. There are several things that happen in the Ramayana that, as much as in the Mahabharata, also you will see that people question and they don't understand. Especially after Sita has come back, and then Sita becomes pregnant, and everything is going on wonderful in Ayodhya. Ramachandra has become the king, and everybody is very happy. An amazing thing happens that all of a sudden Ramachandra sends Sita and exiles her to the forest. Everybody feels so much because they're so closely following Sita and Ramachandra and their amazing pastimes in the forest, and how intimately Sita and Ramachandra are connected as husband and wife, and we idolize it in many different ways. And all of a sudden, you see Ramachandra's behavior is very crude, very rude, very brash, very cruel, that he banished Sita to the forest. Why did he do so? Is a question that everybody asks. Already, we'll see that when Sita came back from Ravana, right in front of everybody in public, Ramachandra put Sita to the test, Agni Pariksha. And then in front of and Lakshmana was very angry with Rama for asking her to go through this. But Ramachandra had a purpose. And he said, no, it's got to happen. I don't accept her unless she proves to everybody in public that she's pure, which everybody knows she is, and we also know she is. But there are always people in this world we need to cater to. So Ramachandra made her go through that Agni Pariksha. And we must also know that there are other stories in the Puranas in Ramayana that actually Ravana can never touch the Lord's consort, Sita. Who is Ravana to touch and enjoy Sita? So it is mentioned that when he kidnapped her, the real Sita disappeared and the Maya Sita was put in front. In Agni Purana, this is mentioned. We have a beautiful pastime in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's visit to South India and somewhere in Andhra, Telangana area. There was a Brahmana in whose house Lord Chaitanya took rest and stayed and took prasadam from him because he was such a devout devotee of Ramachandra. And he did not eat because he said he is fasting. Because he said, Ramachandra has lost Sita and, he's suffering because of being separated from Sita. How can I eat without Sita coming back? And me offering to Sita and Rama together, how can I eat? So he was so absorbed in the pastime of Ramayana. And then Lord Chaitanya told him, you don't have to worry because Ravana never touched Sita. He cannot touch. He touched only Maya Sita. And that is a fake Sita just meant for Ravana alone. And in this way, he consoled him. And he did not very much, when the Lord Chaitanya brought the quotation from the Agni Purana and showed him. And then he immediately became very happy. And he said, you know this, you must be the Lord Ramachandra. Who knows this? I feel it very much in your presence. And in this way, after that, he started chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and everything. It's a nice pastime. So this pastime of the fact that Ravana cannot touch the original Sita, the consort of the Supreme Lord, is also present. And then Sita, after the Agni Pariksha, comes back into the fold of Rama, and coronation happens, and they live happily together. Sita becomes pregnant, and she's 5 months pregnant. At that time, there's a nice scene described in the Ramayana wherein they are both in the palace. They walk into the greenery in the palace, in the forest area like that. And then Sita says, tell me what, and Ramachandra, she reveals to Ramachandra that I'm pregnant. And Ramachandra becomes immensely happy. And then he holds her hand and says, tell me anything, what do you want? I'm so happy with this news. What do you want? What can I do for you? And then Sita says, my Lord, it was so nice being with you completely alone in the forest. I want those days again. We want to visit the forest again. Then he said, I'll definitely arrange for you immediately tomorrow itself. And then she's very happy. He wants to keep her happy. And she's very happy. And Lord Ramachandra goes to attend to his assembly in the palace that day. And he's full joyful. My wife is pregnant and everything is going fine and times are good. And then in that report, he asks a report from all the spies whom he has, who are distributed all over his kingdom in Ayodhya, and who find out what different people are thinking, feeling, and he gets to know how the country is being ruled, whether they are happy or not, etc. So everybody gives a very good report. But one of them gives his report and looks a little different. So Ramachandra looks at him and says, is there something you want to say that you're afraid of saying? Please say it. Don't worry. I want to hear everything, good or bad, that you must tell. And then they look at each other and all that. And then with great reluctance, because Ramachandra is saying so, and the minister, that I heard a conversation in the house of a washerman, a dhobi, that he kicked his wife with his leg. And his mother was saying, what are you doing to her? Is this a way to treat a woman? And he says, I don't want her because she stayed in another man's house and she's coming here and asking me to accept her again. I don't accept a person like that. I am not Ramachandra to accept my wife from another person's place after she has stayed somewhere. That is not the right principle. And he repeatedly saying, I'm not Ramachandra, 3-4 times. He's in his argument with his mother, his mother-in-law and everything. And so there was a big commotion there. And so this man happened to hear it, the spy. And he said that to Ramachandra. Ramachandra immediately became very serious, became extremely grave. And he said, is it so? And then others looked at each other and said, yes, I heard this also. There are several other reports like this. So Ramachandra became very moody. And then he dismissed everybody. Then he told Lakshmana to stay. Then he called upon Lakshmana and said, tomorrow you shall take Sita into the forest to Valmiki's ashram and drop her there and come away, leaving her there. This is my decision and don't argue it. I'm not willing to argue it. You must do it. To Sumantra and Lakshmana. Lakshmana became very depressed, extremely depressed. It's mentioned that the Supreme Lord's first expansion, Balarama, who became Lakshmana, in his avatar as Lord Ramachandra, he suffered excruciating pain being the younger brother of Ramachandra. That's why when Krishna appeared in Dwapara Yuga, Lord Ramachandra appeared in Treta Yuga. And in Dwapara Yuga, Krishna appeared, he specifically became the elder brother of Krishna. It's mentioned that I had enough of a time in the Treta Yuga as Ramachandra's younger brother, unable to respond, unable to do the things I want to do, because many things happened with Lakshmana also. So this was a very excruciatingly painful service given to Lakshmana. So Lakshmana went to Sita and told her, I heard that you would like to go to the forest and tomorrow I'm supposed to take you to the forest, to Valmiki's ashram nearby. And Ramachandra will join you, something like that. After he, so she becomes very happy and said, I want to take jewels, I want to take clothing, and I want to give presents to all the rishis and sages, his wives. I want that, I want this. She was in a very happy mood, right? And she took all that, and then Sumantra wrote this thing. And then as she was getting into the chair, she said, is there something wrong? Something looks like, there's a bad omen. My left eyelid is missing, my legs are shaking. Is there something wrong? I said, nothing wrong, everything is fine. But Lakshmana was morose. He was finding it very difficult. And she found out that something is wrong with Lakshmana. But then they got into the chariot and the chariot drove off. And she was very happy, singing and looking into the forest and talking about many things they did and everything in the forest. And then Lakshmana comes to close to Valmiki's ashram and the bank of the river there. He asks her to get down, and then all of a sudden he starts wailing and crying. Lakshmana could not hold it anymore because Sita was paying her obeisances in the water and doing what all she needs to do. After that, she heard that Lakshmana in the backside is standing near the chariot under the tree, suddenly started wailing loudly and crying. Then he said, what happened? My dear brother, what happened? Why is it that you're wailing and crying like this? And there's a very emotional moment there. When Lakshmana says, I can't bear to say this, but I have to tell you that I'm supposed to leave you here and return. And you will be here. Because Lord Ramachandra told me to do this in the city of Ayodhya, in the kingdom of Ayodhya. People are talking about this particular thing like this. And therefore, Lord Ramachandra said he wants to set an example. He doesn't want his name to be sullied. And he said that I should exile my wife Sita to the forest. There is no other way for me to come out clean and show an example to the people of this world. So I was asked to do it, and I'm finding it very, very difficult to do that. I have to leave now. So Sita started holding all of a sudden her face with her two hands and sobbing horribly and falling down and going unconscious and then waking up again, and it was extremely excruciating even for Lakshmana. And Sumantra was turned away that side and sitting on the chariot. He could also not take it because she was so tender, so dependent on Ramachandra, and she was going to be first. Of course, in Valmiki's ashram, she will take shelter. But then Lakshmana never liked this. Previously also, he did not like at all that she was subjected to the Agni Pariksha, and he really had an argument with Ramachandra. And now again, he's doing this and is asking me to do it. And I find it very difficult to do this. So he took leave of her by going around her 4 times and please excuse me, I'm supposed to do this. And she fainted and she said that, look at my lot, what I have to suffer. Again and again, I have to suffer separation from my husband. And then he left. And he came back and reported to Ramachandra with great pain in his heart. He reported to Ramachandra, and the scene ends there. And then, of course, as soon as Lakshmana leaves, hearing the wailing cry of Sita, Lakshmana found it very difficult, and he closed his ears on the chariot and sped across. But hearing that wailing cry, all these disciples of Valmiki were around, and they were thinking, wow, who is this crying in the forest next to Valmiki's ashram? And they go and find out that this woman is there, beautiful looking woman, very tender, and definitely requires some support. I think she must have fallen down from the heavenly skies. They thought about it and they went and reported to Valmiki, and Valmiki said, I know who she is. She's Sita. And he took with her some drinks and everything and ran along with his disciples to the bank of the river. And there he told Sita that I know you're going to be here and I'm going to shelter you in my ashram with all the females who are there, ascetics, and you can live with them and you'll be looked after. Don't worry, you have nothing to worry here. You can take complete shelter, and Valmiki gives her shelter. And she gives birth to Lava and Kusha. And they are brought up by Valmiki very beautifully. And that's a very wonderful, beautiful story. So this is what happens to Sita in the forest. And she's cut away for nearly 12 years from Lord Ramachandra. And Lord Ramachandra reigns. Now the story is, and the question that I asked earlier also is, why is it that such a cruel thing is being done? People ask this question. Because similar question was asked, oh, for the sake of Kaikai, you have to say things, I have to follow the word of my father, and you went to the forest and your father died, and for the sake of Kaikai, you did that, and you could have very well gone back. Bharata came to you and he said, let's go back. But you were, so, stubbornly following your father's order, and father never wanted to give you that order anyway. And Kaikai anyway has reconciled herself that I did wrong, and father is no more. At least you can come back and be everybody's father. There's every reason for you to do this, and you stubbornly said no. There are some critics of why Lord Ramachandra should not go back. So similarly, there was criticism of him that I will not accept like Ramachandra accepted Sita. So he reacted to that in a very strong way. Like I told you, Maryada Purushottam, he always wants to be a very good example to everybody. But within that, it is not that, like Prabhupada has mentioned, that he is suffering, externally suffering, but internally having a great Vipralambha rasa with this consort. But why did this come about? And who is this Vashaman speaking? So the Padma Purana tells us a beautiful story associated with the Ramayana. Because you should know one thing, that actually the original Moola Ramayana, as spoken by Brahma, is 1 billion shlokas. What is 1 billion shlokas? And that has been condensed in human society in Kali Yuga. It's available for 24,000 shlokas. Valmiki Ramayana, which we are reading. So a lot of stories and details are sometimes not fully there. And they are there in some other Puranas here and there in batches. So they have also been linked with the Ramayana, because it's Lord Ramachandra's story. So the story as to why Sita is suffering the separation and why Ramachandra is suffering separation has also to have a material reason in it, so that we can understand it better. So there's a beautiful story that when Sita was very young and she was playing with the kids in the palace of Janaka Maharaj, Like I mentioned to you, she looked at the bow and all that. At that time, something amazing happened. She's not yet seen Ramachandra. She's not met everybody. In the nice green foliage and gardens and everything that they have, one fine day, Sita and her friend saw two beautiful parrots, a male and a female parrot, very closely attached to each other, very much attached to each other and snuggling each other and, very much in love with each other. It's like a husband and wife. And they were talking to each other about the story that they heard in the ashram of the Muni Valmiki. And they were talking about Janaki and Rama. And then Sita happened to hear it, and these girls happened to hear it and said, wow, what is that story? They sat down and they both were talking. And the story happened to be Ramachandra's story. That how handsome Ramachandra was. His looks, his walk. Raghava Shardula. He was called lion among the Raghava kings. And he was handsome, he was learned, compassionate, very forgiving, and all the wonderful qualities. And how Sita was so wonderful. She was the ideal pair for Ramachandra, and how they got married and the Swayamvara. And they were very amazed because Janaki then was listening to the story, and she was, because at that time all these things have not yet happened. The marriage has not yet taken place. But Valmiki has already mentioned this story, and he's already been speaking this story. And these parrots have written their comments speaking this in Janaki's palace. So Janaki tells these two birds, they're amazing birds. Bring them to me. And they flew off into the mountains somewhere. So all these attendant girls now had to go behind the birds. Somehow they caught both of them. And they brought, and they were put in a cage. And then Janaki addressed them and said, now you tell me the full story. And then I will let you go. Okay? I am very angry because it's about her. And they're using the word Janaki. And she's hearing parrots speaking about me and my future and Rama and everything. I definitely need to know. Right? When astrologer says something about you, I want to go gaga, tell this horoscope, will this happen, will this happen, and all that. Naturally, a young girl will be very interested about her future husband. And it's being spoken about by the parrots. So she kept the parrots and she heard, and they told her, this is what we know, and I've told you what I know. And then she became very enthralled with these parrots and said, so such a person called Rama is going to come to marry me. And he's of these qualities he's got. And so then the male parrot said, now you must let us go. Because we are very close to each other. And we are not persons who can live inside the palace in a cage. We need the mountains, the green forests, and we are birds of the forest. So Janaki said, I will leave you, but not now. When Ramachandra comes to me, till then, I'll keep you with me so that I can hear more from you. It's 9 o'clock. So then they said, no, this is not at all fair because we are married and my wife is pregnant. He revealed, the male parrot revealed, my wife is pregnant. That's why I'm spending time with her. We are going to deliver babies and I need to be with her. Please leave us alone. And then Janaki at that time in a childish fashion said, no. You have spoken about me and my future. How can I leave you? And she said, okay, you can go. She said, the male parrot can go. Let the female parrot stay. And then the female said, I cannot live without my husband. I cannot be separated from him. But she said, no, I can't allow you to go. And this way, Janaki, in her childish way, she told the male parrot to go. And hearing that the male parrot is going to leave, this female parrot in separation, thinking about this, died in front of them. That sadness. And in front of Sita and in front of the male parrot, this female parrot died. Pregnant. And then the male parrot became extremely depressed. I told you, just leave us alone. We are not fit to be like this, put inside a cage. And I told you my wife is pregnant. We already did everything that you said, and you never listened to it. You too, I tell you, will suffer. And I will be the cause of it. I will be born in that place at that time, and I'll be the reason for you to be separated from your husband. I'll be born as a Shudra. This male parrot will say that and fall down and die in the water of the rivers. So there was a little fear amongst the friends, and that incident was forgotten. But this male parrot became the washerman. And he's the one who repeatedly said, I am not Ramachandra to accept Sita again back. I am not Ram, with a vengeance. Why? You separated me from my wife who was pregnant. And because of that, Ramachandra separated Sita and sent her to the forest. The result of that washerman seeing that had such an impact on Ramachandra and the spies that he exiled Sita and he suffered separation from Sita for 12 years, right? And of course, afterwards, Lava and Kusha came. Valmiki brought them with all his disciples, and there was a big festivity going on. And they came and sang for all the Brahmins and sages there. And hearing that, the word went on, so the king also wants to hear you. And in this way, they came in front of Lord Ramachandra and sang. There are wonderful things happening there. That's a beautiful pastime. And Ramachandra will hear, and then he become very attracted when he will come to know that they are the sons. And then he will call Sita back, and then Sita will come, and for the last time he will see her and she will disappear. Mother Earth will come and take her and go away. Because she said, my presence is always disturbing you. My presence is always spoiling your name. And I don't want to anymore do that. I am suffering so much from separation from you, repeatedly. So she said, if at all I have been perfectly chaste, I have never thought of anybody else, and I've been pure, then Mother Earth should come and take me. And the ground opened up, and Bhumi Devi came with a big asan, golden asan, and Sita walked into her hands and sat on the asan, and whole Bhumi disappeared. And Ramachandra was wailing and crying and sitting on his thing. She left for good. This is the story of Sita. I'm just paraphrasing this. And this story that happened in the palace and the separation. There's a material reason for many things. Many of them get very absorbed in the material reason, but the Bhagavatam tells us to look at the other reason. It's a pastime of the Lord. It's meant to attract us to the supreme absolute truth. It's not that we should carry it away by the parrot and this curse and this heaven and remain on the material plane. It's exciting to hear these material reasons also. But sometimes some people say, what a fantastic story, two parrots talking to each other and da 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 da, and how am I supposed to believe this also? So there are principles in it. There are higher principles, and that is the pastime feature of the law. That Mother Sita is displaying this in a manner that is relatable to everybody. The actions of ours, even if we are devotees, we have to be very careful. We should not become callous towards our material actions and our people around us, and in any way act contrary to principles of good religion, morality, ethics. We should understand from here that there will be repercussions to that. We may be able to continue devotional service, but there will be these things happening also inside. And you may be victorious at the end also, because Krishna's blessings for devotional service that you do is also there. Just like the Pandavas also went through many, many things, and there are stories behind them for why they went through certain things. So in devotee's life, the fact that Krishna is blessed you for devotion service that you do, looks like you may also have to sometimes face other sorts of things. So we should not be thinking that because I'm a devotee, I can kick a dog on the street, I can beat something on the head, I can do this. Why I'm a devotee? I am doing devotion service to Krishna. No, one must remain very sensitive, even to other living beings, because all of them are part and parcels of Krishna. And Krishna performs his pastimes. He's come as Lord Ramachandra and performing his pastimes. Those pastimes mean something amazing. Like Sita is also commented upon. This whole Ramayana story has got a beautiful analogy that it is actually the story of a soul, a conditioned soul. The Sri Vaishnava Acharya, Pillai Lokacharya, has commented, and they said that Sita signifies the conditioned soul. How the conditioned soul is taken away by Maya and is in the grips of Maya. Sita is kept in Ravana's place. And in Ravana's place, she is in Ashokavatika. I actually went to that place in Sri Lanka. It's called Sita Nualia place. And I went and visited that place, and there's a Sita temple there also. That's where Sita was kept, Ashokavana. And those that particular tree under which she was there also is grown there. And it's mentioned that Ravana had a big tunnel. It's a very beautiful place. It's a little separated from Lanka's capital. Ravana had a big tunnel. He would come under from the tunnel and surface into Ashokavana because it was his private garden where all these watchmen, ladies, Rakshashis were there looking after it. And that's where she was. Nobody could access her. It was protected, high security. That's where she was. So that Ashokavana is a special imprisonment, and it signifies the body. It signifies the senses. All these Rakshashis signify the senses. But amongst the Rakshashis, there was Vibhishana's daughter, and there was some other like Mandodari and other people also who were good and were very kind to Sita, and they were helping her out. So it's mentioned that a person who is conditioned soul and seeking spiritual life, seeking the blessing of Krishna, he will be sent by Krishna people like Vibhishana's daughter, because in disguise, of course, looks like a Rakshashi, but actually she's daughter and she believes in Ramachandra just like her father does, and she gives association to Sita and gives a lot of solace. And then there is the Guru coming in. Hanuman is the Guru who has come all the way to find where is his conditioned soul and tell him, Krishna is waiting for you. He's going to come and pick you up and things like that. So it's Krishna himself who says, Tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagara bhavami na chirat partha madhyaveshita chetasam. I will come and personally take you. That's why Sita, when Hanuman said, that's a beautiful conversation. We can discuss that when we discuss Hanuman's pastime. Where between Sita and Hanuman, so sweet conversation. So there, when Hanuman tells her, you know, I am what I am, now that you believe it, you understand that I'm a servant of Ramachandra, why don't you come right away now, sit on my shoulder and take you across immediately to Ramachandra? And she says some reason which is not correct. She says, no, you will go across and I will fall down in the ocean because that demoness will come, this will come, you'll go to fight them and I will fall down, something. So Hanuman will say, obviously that is not the reason. You know me. You know what is this? This must be some other reason. So that's not convincing to me. Then she reveals that, no, it is Ramachandra who should come and get me. Then only it is proper for the name of Ramachandra. He comes and saves me. Right? So it is true that Krishna comes and actually saves the conditioned soul. And the Guru shows the way how to do it and brings Krishna and the soul together. He introduces you to Krishna and Krishna redeems you. Of course, the Guru, the different types of Gurus become instrumental in it. So all these things have been explained. The Ramayana is a huge and amazing work. So there Sita is like the conditioned soul, and the different types of suffering, the separation from Krishna is what we are all undergoing. We are separated from the Lord, and we are in Sada Samudvigna Mana Asadgrihat Panam Gato Harimashayata. We are in constant anxiety because of separation, just like Sita is in anxiety. She suffers so much in that Ashokamana, constantly, because of separation from Rama. We are all actually suffering the same type of separation because we have separated ourselves from God, from Krishna. And Krishna sends great personalities like Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to tell us, more about the Supreme Lord and how He cares for you and how you can actually perform a sadhana and connect with Him, and He will come and rescue you. So this is not just some allegorical thing alone, full stop. It's allegory with a purpose, and it explains the condition of the soul in this world, right? So Lord Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has come to perform His pastime to attract us to Him so that we can develop pure love and a relationship of bhakti with the Supreme Lord. And He has come with all His parts and parcels to enact this wonderful pastime. So Sita is playing a very significant role, and a very beautiful story unfolds. Once while Sita is, Lord Ramachandra has come after a long day in the palace and attending to many people and about enemies going to attack you, or citizens complaining. This thing is very tired when he comes. So he comes and he's very happy to see Sita. She's always bubbling with enthusiasm and she's full of love for Ramachandra. So he's becomes pleased when he sees her very much after a hard day's thing. So he says, I'm very tired today. And she said, please sit down. I will massage you today. I'll give you a hot water massage on your shoulder and this and everything. Right? And she has her ring. So, and in that ring is a wonderful stone, emerald stone. So she starts massaging Ramachandra and his broad shoulders, and she puts a hot this thing and all that, and she starts coming down and his feet around, she starts massaging, and then all of a sudden, suddenly, she becomes very afraid and springs up with it, and the ring from her hand comes out and falls down. And he says, what happened? What happened? Is anything? And she said, no, I just thought that, I heard about you, that your feet touched a stone. And the stone became a lady. He just spoke about the Ahalya pastime. And all of a sudden, when I was coming near your feet, I was thinking this ring of mine will touch, the stone will touch, and she'll become a lady, and then everything will be lost for me. So I became afraid and I threw up, and the ring flew out of my hand. So Ramachandra heard this and started laughing and rolling on the bed and holding his knees. It's mentioned that he started laughing so much. And then she was saying, why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? I said, I'm just so funny, this is to me. And he laughed, and then he picked up that ring and put it in his finger, and he never gave it back to her. And she never asked for it. She never asked for it. That is the ring which Hanuman carried, and that's why he knows the pastime. She knows the pastime. So, Lord Ramachandra and Sita's pastimes are described, and many stories like this described, which are very intimate and very soothing and wonderful to hear about the intimate relationships between Ramachandra and Mother Sita. And we hear more about it throughout in the Ramayana in many places. And Sita is a very important character. Like I told you, we can study Sita as a conditioned soul and the Leelas associated with Sita. We can understand Sita as the Lord's eternal consort coming to perform Leela along with him. Then we can understand Sita performing this pastime in rasa and separation. In this way, in many different ways, Sita's pastimes can be understood. I picked up this particular verse and a brief reading just before the session. And I thought that yes, we should speak about Sita today. And here it's mentioned that separation from Sita, very important to know. Separation from Sita has got many connotations. It's not an ordinary, connotations of a husband and a wife and a male and a female and their material relationships in this world. Many people think like that and get more inspired by reading the Ramayana and going the wrong direction. Ramayana is not meant to be a love story alone. Ramayana is meant to be a story for you to learn lessons from it. And what is the lesson we will learn is mentioned in the Bhagavad. Don't become too attached. You become too attached, like the two parrots were very attached, they suffered. Right? And the same suffering was modeled by Sita and Rama. We should always know that we should invest our attachment in Krishna, the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Ramachandra. We should invest our attachment. The whole of Ayodhya invested their attachment in Ramachandra, and all of them went back. The Lord liberated the entire Ayodhya, everybody, because everybody said, we want to go back with you. Don't leave us alone here. When the Lord decided, finally Lakshmana left, and the Lord also decided to go back to his abode, all of the Ayodhya Vasis said, don't leave us alone here, we're all going. All the Vanaras, all the bears, all the citizens of Ayodhya, and everybody who had taken part in Lord Ramachandra's pastime and who had a very intimate relationship, all of them went back. They went back to the transcendental planet of Ayodhya in the spiritual world in Vaikuntha. It's mentioned, he liberated whole Ayodhya. So similarly, Prabhupada, he mentioned that the whole world can become Vaikuntha by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I will stop here. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki. Any question or any comment that anybody would like to make, you can make it now. Am I being heard well now? Okay.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yeah. Yes. Any question? Any comment? If not, we'll meet again tomorrow. Tomorrow maybe we'll be discussing more about Sita's pastimes and also about Hanuman. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna. Prabhupada ki
Krishna
jai.
Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you.